We'll now call this meeting to order. Roll call.
Roll call. McKiernan.
Here.
Mugia. Here. Maddox.
Here.
Kane. Markley. Here. Walters. Philbrook. Walker.
Here.
Townsend.
Here.
Holland.
Here. This evening, the invocation is being given by Reverend Dennis Wistrom from Sunset Hills Christian. Please stand and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Almighty God, as we come before you this evening, we bring each of our elected officials before you and pray for wisdom and guidance as they seek to guide our city in a very positive way. We want to thank you for each one and the commitments they've given to our city. We also pray that you'd help us each one to be faithful citizens, supporting those who represent us, and help us to always realize in God we do trust. Bless us as we serve you, for I pray in Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend, for being here tonight. Ms. Cobbins, are there any revisions to tonight's agenda?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, a blue sheet has been distributed. Under the public announcements, we have 3 announcements. The first is the deadline for the budget proposals has passed. Number 2 is going to be the postponement of the police recruit class, and number 3 will be the March calendar updates.
Thank you very much. All right, that brings us to tonight's consent agenda. Does any member of the commission, staff, or citizen in attendance wish to set aside an item on tonight's consent agenda? You would need to step forward at this time and state your name and address for the record and ask that that item be set aside. Anything that is not set aside will be approved with one vote as we approve the consent agenda. Commissioner Maddox?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to set aside item 6. I have a few questions.
Which item?
Number 6.
The travel report?
Yeah.
Okay, it will be set aside. All right, any other items that you'd like to set aside? Let the record show I see no one else
Move for
moving to
approval.
set anything aside.
Second.
The motion and second are appropriate. Roll call.
Roll call. McKiernan.
Aye.
Mugia. Aye. Maddox.
Aye.
Kane. Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
That motion passed 9-0.
All right, that brings us to item number 6. It was set aside. Commissioner Maddox.
Hoping there was someone from the auditor's office that can answer the question.
I do not see a member of the auditor's office present.
Okay. Well, I'll hold my questions to a later time then. I just had general questions from the report we got. I just wanted to know in regards to NLC, just to revisit, because we seen the expenditures that people spent for 2013, but I wanted to know in regards to the NLC, how many people, how many delegates are we supposed to send per conference? How many actually go? What's the estimated cost that it would cost the city? And then I want to know, how often do we send 4 delegates to the NLC? I'm speaking in reference to the NLC because that's the one I go to, but I want to know how many delegates actually go to each conference. I think it's maybe 1 or 2 sometimes, so I just wanted those numbers to be added in, but they're not here tonight, so I'll get with staff on it.
That's a good question. Do we have, I think Mike Taylor has that number. Do we have the number of delegates that we have to NLC? Is that your question?
Yeah, I just wanted to know how many delegates, or being a member of the NLC, how many delegates are we required to send, and how many do we actually send? And if we were to send the 4 that I believe that is required, how much that would estimated how much that would be for the city?
Well, I know that by virtue of being a member of the National League of Cities and the National Association of Counties, both, that we are allotted a certain number of delegates based on our the population of our city. And so based on that, we're given a certain number of delegates. Those can either be elected officials or staff in some cases. We are not required to send that full delegation, but we have an ability to send up to that number. And to my knowledge, in my time, the 7 years I've been up here, I don't know that we've ever sent the full contingency to any of the conferences that we could. So I'm not aware. I think it's 3 or 4 to each one, but we'll be sure the staff gets you that information.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else on the travel expenditures that anyone would like to discuss? Is there a motion? It's been moved and seconded. Roll call.
Roll call, McKiernan,
Aye.
Mugia. Maddox,
Aye.
Kane, Markley,
Aye.
Walters, Philbrook,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
The motion passed 9-0.
All right, thank you. That brings us now to our public hearing agenda, the public hearing resolution on North Point Development. Mr. Brakovich, if you'd make presentation, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioners, good evening. George Brakovich with Economic Development. Got a very brief presentation for you tonight on an exciting project, Village West Luxury Apartments Phase 2 by North Point Development. Acknowledge the developers team is here tonight. Brent Miles with North Point is here, as well as Steve Allison with the property ownership group. And if you have any questions for them, I'm sure they'd be very happy to talk to you tonight. So what are we here for tonight? Really two things. One is to conduct a public hearing to consider the pilot associated with the IRB structure for this deal. And then, if you see fit, adopt a single resolution that indicates our intent to issue those bonds at a future date, and also approves the development agreement with the pilot structure embedded. To get you acquainted with where we are in the property, the north end here is Parallel Parkway. North 110th Street is here on the east, and this is Delaware Parkway that feeds into the first phase project. And this highlighted or outlined area represents the 15-plus acre site that phase 2 would be constructed upon. Preliminary site plan, you just get an idea of Delaware Parkway. Again, it's the 4-lane extension. Little different design, and Brent can touch on that if needed. But again, it's a 302 unit. The first phase was 306 units, so roughly about the same size project. Give you an idea on the rendering that we got from North Point today, updated of what the project is going to look like, just slightly different front elevation than the phase 1 project. So as I mentioned, it's 302 units. It is a $34 million capital investment project. Same finished quality, same amenities package as phase 1, but this one will have its separate clubhouse, pool, all those kinds of amenities. And again, it's by design, it's 1 and 2 bedroom units only, and again, 60% are 1 bedroom. The pilot structure itself is based upon full market value, so it's a 0% tax abatement. We work with the county appraiser's office to determine a market value per unit, and that's how we structure the pilot. It is an IRB that qualifies for a project exemption certificate through Kansas Department of Revenue for sales tax exemption on their construction. It does have LMW requirements, which they are far exceeding the requirements for phase 1, and we trust in them to continue that with phase 2. So current annual taxes on the 198-acre site are roughly $4,700 and some change per year. Just this 15-acre carve-out, year 1 pilot will be $233,000. Keep in mind, phase 1 is paying a very similar project, so at full build-out on roughly 30-odd acres, this is going to be generating over $500,000 annually in property tax. Public infrastructure improvements, these are pieces of the development agreement. Very similar to phase 1, we had an agreement with North Point. They built the entire road. We wanted the parkway to service future development in the area. Their project only probably needed a smaller road, so we agreed to reimburse them for some share, UG's share of constructing the 4-lane road. The structure of this deal is the total reimbursement is $120,000. It would be $60,000 out of the UG share of the pilot the first 2 years. Total road construction cost is approaching $900,000. And then a new sanitary sewer line proposed for the area. North Point would pay a one-time $300,000 fee to tap into that. That new sewer line, there would be some action to come back before you to consider that, but it would open up another 800 to 900 acres out in the western corridor. And then last slide, just to kind of again remind everyone what we're here for tonight. That's the end of my presentation. Again, if you've got questions for the developer.
Well, I just want to reiterate some very important points that you made. Number one, the pilot structure, there's a 0% abatement per se on this. What the pilot structure allows us to do, and this is a very innovative program that our staff came up with a couple of years ago, because when we were working with groups, we would offer some incentives, but then they would work to try to get their taxes lowered in tax court. And so one of the things we did is we worked with the developers to say, look, we'll fix your taxes for 10 years, and then we'll abate them 100%, but you'll make a payment in lieu of taxes, which is that pilot, which guarantees our revenue and allows them to budget. And so it's a really good program that makes sure. So when you see people say, well, there's 100% tax abatement, yes and no. Yes, that we did it so we could move to a different structure to guarantee our income and guarantee that we wouldn't have to go to court with someone we just gave incentives to. The other piece is it's important that we are issuing the revenue bonds, but we are not backing the revenue bonds.
That's correct.
So these $34 million in revenue bonds are issued by the unified government, but there is no obligation, general obligation or taxpayer obligation to back these bonds. So that's a very important distinction as well. But as we continue to see this kind of development, I just wanted to clarify those important points and congratulate our staff and North Point. I would like to hear from North Point in terms of how this project is moving forward and why, before you've even finished phase 1, are you doubling the size of your project?
George reminded me that I can't answer that with "we're crazy." So, Brent Miles with North Point Development, Mayor and Commission, thanks again. Many of you have been out and seen the project. I think we can all say we're both very proud of what we've produced. I think it really struck me when I got off of 435 the first time and I could see the apartments kind of creeping up over the parking garage at Legends, and it really kind of was impactful at that point of how big and impactful the project really is. To answer your direct question, Mayor, our activity is extremely strong. It continues to be strong. At Standing Committee, I kind of walked through this, but I'll walk through it again real quickly for you all. We have a similar product at Briarcliff. We have a similar product in Parkville. Now we have this. I'm proud to say that this is the most successful project we've had. It's more successful than Briarcliff. And that is based upon the amount of leases that we've seen and the amount of activity. So we have been open 31 days, and we hit our 80th lease today. So we have more leases in hand than we have units done. So we are trying to go as fast as we can to get those other units. We'll have another about 52 units come online April 1st. So we'll have another wave of people. If you haven't heard this, our first building was essentially pre-leased. We opened it, like I said, 31 days ago. That Saturday, we had 18 or 19 folks trying to move in at the same time on a Saturday morning. That's a good problem to have. Our activity's strong. A very good week at Briarcliff or Parkville in the summer, we might get 7 leases in a week. If you hadn't heard this stat, last week in the weather, we had 14 leases. So it is, we literally can't keep up with all the applications and processing.
And what's the average rent there?
So we're based on $1.03 a foot. So you have, I think our cheapest unit, our most economical unit is
Thank you.
is $799 for a 1-bedroom. We're right under the $800 mark. But that does not include garage or storage unit. Some of the commissioners have been out and have asked that question. I would say our average renter is paying around $1,000 a month with their amenities package. And then we have our 2-bedroom with a den. And if you do that with a garage and a storage unit, you're in that $1,500 to $1,600 range. I shared with the Standing Committee, we do get to see some employment information. People asked, are these all Cerner? We don't think we've hit the Cerner wave yet. We're seeing good activity at a Cerner, but it's not what we thought. We thought it would be over 50%, maybe more, and that's not what we're seeing. We're seeing a variety out of Cerner, we're seeing a lot out of the base, and we're seeing a lot from KU. We don't know if it's
The
the
Fort
university or
Leavenworth
the med.
base? The Fort Leavenworth base?
Yes, yes, sir. And I can tell you our incomes out of those three employers are extremely high. I would guess over $100,000 average salary out of those folks.
So KU, Cerner, and the Fort Leavenworth base are your highest renters,
Those are.
okay?
And, okay, we'll start tomorrow. One thing that, you know, that we're gonna do a little bit different, so it is a completely separate unit, separate project, as George said. It'll have its own clubhouse, it'll have its own pool. You know, you've seen the amenities package. If you haven't, stop into our clubhouse anytime. I don't need to be there. You can take a tour on your own. You can see units. We have an on-site masseuse. We have a saltwater pool, and we try to really cater to luxury. Our next phase will have exactly the same interior layouts. It's just the skin will be a different facade. It'll be more of a craftsman facade, just different colors, different stone. All told, we think that these two projects together will generate about 1,000 residents for the area, which is a pretty significant number.
That's terrific. Okay, thank you very much. I do need to open the public hearing, so I would ask at this time if there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak in favor of this project. Would you please come forward at this time? Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor? Let the record show I see no one moving to the microphone. If there's anyone who would like to speak in opposition to this project, will you please step forward at this time?
Move for approval.
Second?
Let the record show no one is coming to the microphone. We will close the public hearing. The motion and second are in place. Roll call.
Roll call, McKiernan,
Aye.
Mukia,
Aye.
Maddox,
Aye.
Kane, Markley,
Aye.
Walters, Philbrook,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
The vote is 9-0. That motion passed.
Thank you. That brings us to item 10 on the Commissioner's agenda, item number 1, a designation of voting delegate. Is there a motion?
Move that we approve.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call.
Roll call, McKiernan,
Aye.
Mugia, Maddox,
Aye.
Kane, Markley,
Aye.
Walters, Philbrook,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
Vote is 9-0. That motion passed.
Okay, that completes our agenda. We are adjourned, and we will reconvene as the Land Bank Board of Trustees. The only item we have in the Land Bank is the consent agenda. Is there anyone in the audience or any commissioner who would like to pull anything off of the Land Bank consent calendar?
Second?
Let the record show that we do not have anything pulled off. Motion and second. Roll call.
Roll call, McKiernan,
Aye.
Mugia, Maddox, Kane, Markley,
Aye.
Walters, Philbrook,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
The vote is 9-0. That motion passed.
Okay, before adjournment, we do have some public announcements. The first is that the deadline for the budget proposals closed at noon today. We had over 30 applications. I want to thank everyone in the public who submitted one, and I want to especially thank the Commission for accelerating this 6 months earlier than we've ever done it, so that they can have the due consideration that I think the public deserves. So I want to thank the Commission for adopting this budget, and thank the commissioners who worked on the form itself. And I believe Markley and McKiernan deserve a lot of the credit for that in terms of putting that form together, and our staff who worked very hard on it as well. So thank you for that. That did close at noon today, and we are moving into for our calendar, we're moving into strategic plan on the 8th. Commissioner Murguia, do you have a question with regard to that?
I do, Mayor. I've received several phone calls from the Black Chamber and Crystal Watson, and then also from the MBR in my district, ABC, that applied for uncommitted funds from last year, and they're both seeming kind of frustrated with the process and how we're going to deal with those uncommitted funds and how they'll be distributed. from last year. They were the top two left on the list for uncommitted funds last budget.
Okay.
So if you could help, or if someone, some staff person could help move that through, Crystal called me again today.
Did they submit a proposal?
They did, both have submitted proposal, and I don't know about Crystal, but I do know that ABC has submitted a proposal, the back proposal again, and a new proposal for this year, and they're all the same.
Okay.
So you could get it down to 29 if you would take care of those.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes, I'd be happy to, Mayor. We've had several commissioners, excuse me, we've had several commissioners make an inquiry on their behalf, so I'll share the same information. Essentially, those dollars are dropping to the bottom line, will roll over into the 14-15 budget, and therefore will be available for allocation by the commission. So the notion of having another round of last year's money is perhaps misconceived in the fact that we funded those you approved last year. Any remaining funds then will roll to the bottom line in fund balance for community development, and you'll have full access to award those in whatever fashion you want to this year.
Well, Dennis, then will the two people that were contenders for the uncommitted funds roll to the top of the list for this next year's funding?
That would be a commission decision, ma'am.
But the money hasn't gone anywhere.
Correct.
We're talking about the community development money, is that right?
That's right.
Yeah, so that money is still in the community development, and we have those requests at our disposal. And so it will be up to us to allocate those funds. And we have the funds from last year, and we have the funds for this year. And my view is the community development block grant money needs to be allocated.
I know. I'm
To the community.
disappointed that we sat on $300 and some thousand when both these agencies were in the queue to get them and then didn't get them.
Well, and I will say, we talked at length about this during the last budget hearing, so we do need to move forward on that.
Okay.
But certainly, when we have those proposals and we decide who's at the top of the list or bottom of the list, that's the priority of the commission. So I'm hopeful that we will resolve both of those.
Soon.
Well, certainly in the budget. I don't know if we'll,
Won't have any direction sooner as to whether we move them to the top of the list or they just become part of the pool that.
we could do, and we can, let me think about this in terms of just process. What would probably work the best is to have a session just on refreshing on CDBG and home funds, so we can see that again. So it's similar to what we did with CMIP, to get that back in front of the commission so we can move forward with the direction. I think that's easy to do.
Okay,
All right?
great, thanks.
Thank you. We have two other announcements. One is from Mr. Bach.
Thank you, Mayor. And this is just to follow up. Earlier in the year, Mr. Hayes informed you that we were not proceeding with our police recruit class at that time. We were evaluating where our year-end numbers were before we sent out any notices to any of the projected candidates. We did do that, closed our invitation process, our application process in November. So that we do have a letter now we're going to send to all the candidates, ask everyone make sure they're still interested in the process before we start going through and narrowing the list down to start to move forward for the 2014 Academy.
Please note, this is
Just an update that the letter's going out to asking people if they're still interested that it applied earlier.
So two things here. This is the police department. There were delays in several departments in hiring. We did send out a delay letter to the fire department, and we heard very clearly that you should have heard about that first. Yes? So
Clearly.
the ability to learn, which is positive. And so that letter is going back to re-engage the police folks who had applied and wanted the commission to be aware of that before those letters went out. So if you should get a call from the constituent, you would have already heard about it. You bet. That seems easy. We should do more easy communication. Okay, the third item is Mr. Hayes.
Thank you, Mayor. This is just an update regarding the March calendar, leading off with next week, executive session at 5 p.m. regarding personnel matter. Then on March 6th, at the request of Commission last week, specifically Commissioner Murguia, the notion of meeting with the rating agencies. We've been able to schedule that for 6 p.m. on the 6th. They will actually be making a field visit here in Kansas City, Kansas, and will be present in person, as well as Lou Levin, our CFO, and Dave McGilvery, our financial advisor. Mayor mentioned earlier today the strategic planning session. That will be here at City Hall. Target start time is 7:30 in the morning. And that is also when the citizen survey will be submitted. All of the commissioners should have received an update today from Mike Grimm, advising you where we are in that process and trying to answer questions that have surfaced this week. So please check your emails if you have any remaining questions, but that will be publicly submitted on Saturday, March 8th. Spend just a moment on March 13th. This item has been on the calendar, but we've not discussed it in any detail. We've had opportunity this week to firm up those details and wanted to share them with the commission tonight. We have a guest that will be present on the 13th. He's with the ICMA, International City Managers Association. He's with the public safety component, and he's coming not to offer conclusions, recommendations. He's coming to talk about state-of-the-art issues in the industry of public safety across the nation, and to talk about the data you need if you're going to evaluate later in the year. Commission needs to be aware, we have talked to some labor groups in public safety already, have made them aware that, and it was a suggestion that Mr. Bach had made, if we need to have other representatives come in from other professional organizations such as the International Firefighters Association or the Fraternal Order of Police come in and offer thoughts and comments about state-of-the-art, that offer is being made, and that could be scheduled at a later time. So it's an ongoing process. It's very inclusive. The presentations earlier that day will be made to command staff for police, fire, and sheriffs. It will also be made to the labor organizations that afternoon, so they'll have an opportunity to all hear in advance the presentation before it comes to you that evening. So we're literally trying to get everybody in the boat, if you will, in terms of the issues that we're going to be addressing as a part of the RFPs going out to evaluate fire service, police service, and commission already started last week regarding the jail population and the jail issue.
I'd like to say too, I think the commission is going to be very interested in this. Commissioner Walker and I had the opportunity at the National League of Cities in Seattle to sit down with a member of this team to just give us an overview of what is the state of the art in terms of what kinds of, as we do an RFP to look at our fire service, our police service, our sheriff's service, what are the questions we should be asking? I mean, what kinds of decisions are departments making across the country that are helping to contain costs while not compromising the safety of the employees or the public? There is a lot of great research and data out there, but we need to be making data-driven decisions. If I could make a pitch for a moment for open data, I would point out that this kind of data that we need is going to help us drive our decisions. It's just so easy. But anyway, I think you're going to, I thought, Commissioner, if I could speak for it, so I thought we found this very helpful because they're talking about a number of data points that I found fascinating and very important. So that's coming up on March 13th. Thank you.
And just to close out the month, the 20th is set as a date for the commission to finalize budget priorities. This will be the conclusions coming out of your strategic planning process on the 8th. And finally, we have police department awards ceremony scheduled for 6 p.m. on the 27th. It'll take you through the month of March.
Now, this is not listed on here, but is it my understanding, Mr. Hayes, that March 6th is your last commission meeting?
That is correct, Mayor. I took great pride in making this presentation this evening for the remaining part of the month, but I will not be with you for those portions. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, just wanted to check. All right, thank you very much. That's all the agenda we have for tonight. We are adjourned.